Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'll call this 29th regular session of the Mayor and City Council to order. I will be giving the invocation and then the pledge of the flag. If you could please stand and join us. I think this is pretty fitting considering what we're charged with doing over the next couple of weeks. Dear Lord, we seek blessings on the task before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick announcements. We'll be following the rules of procedure adopted by this administration on December 20th, 2016. If you have a cell phone, please put it on mute or turn it off. All correspondence, distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk. It should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official records. The next scheduled meeting dates are December 5th and 12th, are work sessions at 4 p.m., and December the 19th is a regular session at 7 p.m. There will be no meeting on Tuesday, December 26th. We have some guests with us tonight. We're going to be handing out the Hagerstown Gridiron Classic MVP presentation and that beautiful trophy sitting over there. Now, I know that Mr. Quarterman would love to come down and help me present that trophy to South High.
I will.
Please join me.
Will do. Emily, you want to come?
Emily can come down and give
and
her
gloat.
Gloat, yeah.
yeah, she can gloat. All right. Well, it is this year for the Gridiron Classic was the 61st meeting of North High and South High. And currently, the record stands at 30. Oh, I don't think I have a loud enough voice. The record stands at 30 with one tie. So next year will be a doozy because someone's going to take the lead again. The annual tradition is an opportunity to build community pride and promote school spirit. And I would also like to say a special thank you to the principals, athletic directors, coaches, teachers, and the students. And the students are key to building community pride, and they are key in making Hagerstown a great place to live, work, and play. We'd also like to thank Conservative Incorporated and Sunrise Rotary of Hagerstown for underwriting the MVP scholarships. Conservative Incorporated is a sponsor of the North Most Valuable Player, and that would be Dylan Schatzer. Can I get Dylan to come forward? I know. Okay.
I will.
Here you go. Here.
Dylan is a.
Need that. Oh, yeah.
Dylan is a wonderful kid. He's a wonderful student, athlete. He represents North High extremely well. Last year he had 15 tackles total for the season. This year he ended up with 111.
Wow.
He was just voted by the Washington County Coaches co-defensive player of the year. And Dylan deserves all the accolades he can get. I'd like to know the answer to that also.
Well, listen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Congratulations. I know I saw Coach Pierre, if I get him to come up, and Duncan Burnett. I'm sorry. That's, come on up, yeah. Oh, look what we have here. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, as MVP, this is a check there that goes to South Oxford Scholarship Fund. And that's your name, from 2017. And congratulations. Any pictures, guys, want to gather around? Paul's going to hand you the trophy.
Well, thank you. It is truly an honor to be part of this football game. Just figure 61 years. And it's an honor and a privilege for Coach and I to serve as the coaches, to represent our schools. And I just want to say that Coach and I work extremely hard together to bring unity to our community. On December the 8th, both of our teams will be together to buy Toys for Tots. And we will go to Chick-fil-A for breakfast. They will serve us in Williamsport and North breakfast. And when we're done, we'll go to Kmart, buy Toys in the morning, and then we'll take them over to the Toys for Tots distribution center. And I think it's awesome that all three of our schools come together and do that.
I remember we did it one year,
yes.
back in 2010, I think it was, or 2011.
That was the first year we started it. Yeah. And we appreciate you being there. We'd like to invite you to be there again.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
Bring some people with you, and it's a great honor. But I'm very proud of Duncan. He's the heartbeat of our football team. He's such a great example to other players and students in our school, and we're very proud of him.
Paul, you want to grab the trophy? We need to get a picture of this. Good morning.
You're gonna get everybody?
Good morning, guys. Thank you guys very much.
Great job.
Let's have a round of applause for the MVP.
Mayor, before everybody leaves, can I just say something about Coach Pierre?
Sure.
I was officiating football when Coach Pierre came to South High. And those of us who know anything about the program know what a massive change he brought to that school. And he has been a great asset to our community. And if I'm correct, Coach, you have achieved 100 wins faster than any other coach in the history of Washington County football. And for that, you should be congratulated, and want to thank you for everything you've done for the community.
Very nice. Okay, we're going to move on to citizen comments, and we have 3 individuals who have signed up. Ken Butler is number 1. Ken, it's 5 minutes, okay?
I'm not long-winded like you, so we're good. No, hey, I wanted to speak to the mayor and council tonight. First, okay, great. All right, now they can actually hear me. So I wanted to speak with the mayor and council tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for your consideration tonight for my application for the Borough Box for my business. But furthermore, I also wanted to provide some words of encouragement. I have spoken with local business owners. Many local business owners believe that Hagerstown is on the upswing when it comes to growth. I truly do believe that if we come together as a community, we can get more business owners to invest in Hagerstown. But this needs to happen through positivity and through reinforcement of the good things that Hagerstown has to offer and that our community in Washington County has to offer. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know you all are tired from your evaluating 22 candidates earlier, but I'd like to say please keep those words in consideration when looking for your candidate to replace Councilman Munson. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Marvin Lohr.
I'm Marvin Lohr, 1135 Sunnyside Drive in Hagerstown. I feel like when I come up here, I'm forever lecturing you guys, and I probably am. But I do believe Hagerstown could be a much better place. And not so many people saying, oh, Hagerstown, I don't want to go there. So my lecture tonight is resident housing is falling down. I mean, just tumbling down. If you go on Google and look at 523 Summit, you'll see a house that's starting to deteriorate. It's boarded up and everything. That was August of 2014. If you go up there on Summit now and look at it, it's even worse shape. And there's houses falling down in Franklin, East Franklin, Jonathan Street, and many other vacant houses that are, well, they're not falling down, but those three, they're falling. There's so many vacant houses in this town, and they sit vacant for years. 200 block of South Potomac would be a case. Since I've been up here in 1998, I believe it was, they've been vacant. Could be nice houses, could be fixed up. I think you could get the police, the firemen, and even the city workers, give them some sort of incentive to come in and fix these places up and live in town. It can be done. And I think your landlord tax thing you have on residential properties is a bad idea, because that's driving cost up, and I have 17 rentals up here, and I have a struggle sometimes keeping them above water. People up here sometimes don't care about moving out and leaving the place a mess. I'm just working on one on Liberty Street. Now I put over $2,000 in this thing to keep it above the inspection codes. And throw another tax at me, I don't understand this. If you got the houses in better shape, you'd have a better value of your house, and then you'd get your tax money instead of taxing something and making it harder to get the places in shape. That's it.
Thank you, Marvin. Mr. Wills.
My name is Harold Wills. I live at 149 Summit Avenue, Hagerstown, Maryland. I also own the property now at 804 West Washington Street, adjoining the new National Road Park. Now, I have things to distribute, please, to the mayor and council in reference to this whole situation. How do I get these pictures and whatever to you? Thank you. The first 3 pages are duplicates of what I'm about to read to you.
Mr. Wills,
Now,
Mr. Wills, could you clarify which property next to the National Road Park
in
was
the
recently
picture,
purchased?
ma'am, do you have the picture of the first picture? I am the house, beautiful white house, in reference to this gentleman reclaiming properties. This house was renovated over the past 3 years. It's right there adjoining. The pictures you will about to see will be the horrendous damage that's been inflicted upon that. Now, the dedication that Mr. Brucci officiated at had on the back page, it was designed by the neighborhood residents. All was very, 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 very optimistic on that day of dedication, September the 11th. I'm sorry, September the 12th. And down at the bottom of the back of this page, it says, a welcome plaza that offers a place to relax with benches and shade. Now, moving on, November the 11th, 2017. But before that, a young gentleman who is described in the paper that I have distributed there broke the upper sash of my back window at 8:04. He was immediately identified by the individual who had pointed it out to me. He also lifted his leg, pants leg, to show me the gash on his leg provided to him by the young man who had thrown the rock through that window, lest he tell. A few days later, I had already been in contact with Mr. Haddock, of the Parks and Recreation. He could care less. According to him, his job is Parks and Recreation. This sort of situation to him is to be handled by the city police. He has washed his hands of it. Okay, now, you will see also on pictures number, let's see, pictures 6 and 7, you will see the damage to the park, the overturned and trash thrown about at the entrance of the park. You will see the sign that you will see very gloriously proclaimed in that dedication page picture, standing upright, called the Berliner. Now, the Berliner was the designer of the company and manufacturer of the park. And in the dedication picture, you will see that Berliner picture, that Berliner sign sitting right there. And it states on that sign that it warns of the dangers of the park being utilized by children who are not protected against some of the things might be an element to danger or injury to those children. And that, quote, should be accompanied by adults while are in that park. Now, as you also will see on that dedication page, you will see a white city truck in the back of my property who had just finished replanting for the God knows how many times all the shrubbery around the periphery of that building, of that park in the back. And according to Mr. Haddock and according to the grounds crew, this was being done on a daily basis because the same kids, including this particular gentleman I'm talking about tonight, were pulling them up as fast as they were being planted and thrown over the fence. I'm talking of firsthand experience because I not only saw it, but the neighbors up there are terrorized. They are terrorized. Now, on November the 11th, 2017, Officer Kimmel, Hagerstown Police Department, was dispatched to my home. He is Detective number 5259, as indicated on the paper, and another officer. This was incident 17007176, as indicated on that paper. This child is described there on that paper. Now, he threw rocks and road construction debris through the rear kitchen window, completely obliterating both panels of both sashes of my kitchen window. That's pictures 2, 3, and 4. He threw a rock at and into the adjoining park street light, smashing it with debris from this landing my landing from my home, from my property into that light. Part of that light's coverage, the plastic coverage, was lying in my yard. This is also the same child that had thrown stones and rocks at me a week earlier from the park, which was unreported to the police, knowing nothing would be done about it. This is also the same child that had broken out that smaller section of the top sash of the window earlier. Now, I had been told after I did talk to Mayor Brucci, and he was very cordial. I received calls from a Lieutenant Woodring and a Lieutenant Hurd. Officer Woodring sent out Officer Kimmel to speak to the eyewitnesses, a Miss Michelle Cole and a Timothy McCauley, who had witnessed not only the destruction of my property, but also the municipal park. They ID'd the boy, and as he was being ID'd, he walked into the alley behind the park, and the man said to Officer Kimmel, "There he is." Officer Kimmel then went behind and talked to this kid. Lieutenant Woodring told me the next day by phone that the boy told him he hadn't done it. Who do we believe in this situation? Lieutenant Woodring told me the following day by phone that when Officer Kimmel spoke to the above-mentioned youth, the youth said he was not guilty. Now, this is a blatant act of criminal behavior and elder abuse. I am 73 years old, and I have been told by the people in the neighborhood I am being persecuted because that young boy doesn't like old people. It needs to be addressed by the police department of Hagerstown, the Parks and Recreation. Mr. Haddock needs to be told that it is his responsibility, and the mayor of council in Hagerstown. The neighbors in the area are afraid of this child and his group in the park, and are thusly afraid to follow and allow their children to go in. After talking to every neighbor up there that they could, they will not send their children into that park unaccompanied. Wonderful new park we have in there, up there indeed. No supervision, no need for adult accompaniment, and lots of rocks and road debris. Now, this child in question has a messed up mind. This child needs love. That love comes through discipline, not through a carte blanche entrance into a world of crime provided to him by the Hagerstown Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. Harold was the last person who actually signed the sheet to speak. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Step up to the microphone, give us your name and address. Okay, seeing no one else, we're going to move on to the public hearing. Land Management Code Amendments, revisions to cluster subdivision requirements of Article 4, Section D, residential districts.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Steve Bachmiller for the Planning and Code Administration Department. This is a public hearing for a text amendment, zoning text amendment case 2017-04. This is to amend the Land Management Code, Article 4, which is the zoning ordinance, Section D6, which are the provisions that govern cluster subdivisions within the city. The proposed amendment does three things. First, it expands the areas within the city's residential zoning districts within which one can apply for and obtain approval of a cluster subdivision. Where they currently are, just the R-Mod zoning district, to all 4 of our residential zoning districts at this time. The second thing it also does is it revises and updates the setback and lot area chart for cluster subdivisions. This was done because we found that reducing the setbacks allows for greater flexibility of design in a cluster development and may make them more attractive for use by developers. The third thing is that there is a provision also being added in which if you obtain approval of a cluster subdivision for the development of your property, all of the single-family homes, townhouses, semi-detached dwellings, duplexes, 2 on 1 lot. All of those buildings will be required to be constructed on their own individual lots instead of having multiple houses, multiple townhouses, single families, duplexes, et cetera, is all on a large lot for more of a rental arrangement. I want to enter into the record by reference the certificate of public hearing. The hearing was advertised in the newspapers. There are 2 things that I do want to make very clear as part of this process. The first is that these in no way affect how we calculate density in residential developments within the city. That's all based on what the base zoning district would allow. The cluster subdivision allows for smaller lots if what is reduced off of the sizes of those lots is set aside in common open space. So it does not increase or decrease the number of dwelling units somebody would otherwise receive on a subdivision within our residential zoning districts. The second thing is that this project, or excuse me, this proposal in no way impacts the McCleary Hill subdivision. I wanted to make that on the record because there was some erroneous information distributed in the press that implied that this proposal would affect the McCleary Hill development. It does not. It's completely irrelevant to what's going on with McCleary Hill, so I just wanted to make that part of the record. We have the proposed language and ordinance ready for introduction this evening, and if you decide to move forward with that, it could be voted on in December and come effective in August. Thank you.
Any questions for Steve at this point?
No.
All right, no one has signed up to speak for or against this cluster subdivision, so if anyone is here to speak either for or against this amendment, step up to the microphone, give us your name and address, and whether or not you are for or against, and the reasons why.
Could you speak a little louder? I couldn't quite make out what you said.
Anyone, no one has signed up to either speak for or against this cluster subdivision amendment. But if you wish to speak either in favor of or against, please step up to the microphone and give us your name and address.
That I can hear real good.
Okay. Gotta get the mic closer, Marvin, that's all. Seeing none, Steve, anything else to add?
Here, could I make a comment, though? I don't know why we always want to deal with new subdivisions when the center of the city has many problems and many vacant houses. There's a street where I live on, it's only 1 block, Crescent. It must have 6 vacant homes on it at the moment. Down at Willard, there's 6 or 7 homes there sitting vacant. South Potomac Street, 200 block, there are homes sitting there vacant. It would seem to me, instead of having these new subdivisions built, get into the older sections of town and fix the place up. And your center will come back, and you may even have a downtown that will generate funds for the city. And one other thing I wanted to say before, and I didn't, was you want to save some money, and there's no organization that couldn't look at themselves and save 5% easily. And I'm sure a government agency, because I've worked on a few in the military, they could do much better than that. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Marvin. Anyone else on this issue of the amendment to the Land Management Code? Seeing none, we'll keep the record open for 10 days for any written comment. All right, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll have the city administrator's comments, please.
Just a reminder that this Friday, December 1st, is the City Park holiday lighting. There'll be quite a few festivities going on in the park from 6 to 9 p.m., and at 7 p.m. will be the actual lighting. That's all, Mayor.
Cool. Mr. Metzner.
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Keller.
I just wanted to use my time this evening to say thank you to Don Munson for his years of public service to the city of Hagerstown. As you guys know, he resigned his position earlier this month, and we've been looking to fill it, and I feel like there hasn't been enough celebration about his career. that began in public service in 1975. So that's 42 years of his life he dedicated to bettering Hagerstown and Washington County. I can tell you I've been doing this for a year, and it's exhausting at times, so I can only imagine how he feels after 42. He was one of the first people that reached out to me after I got elected and was always willing to give me advice. Even if we didn't see eye to eye on the subject, he was open to seeing both sides, and that's exactly what kind of person you want in a politician. So I just wanted to personally say thank you to Don for his years of service to Hagerstown. We owe you a great deal, and the residents of Hagerstown should celebrate him, send him cards, send him thank yous, do something, because he deserves it.
Thank you. Mr. Corbin?
Just a couple things to add for the people that spoke here this evening. First off, I know the kids left already from the north-south. Had a great time at that game. Unfortunately, the result was not the desired result, but a great game was played, and it was great to see the community involved in it, and to have those young men here this evening and the coaches as well. So, well done to both schools on that end. I'd like to thank Mr. Buckler for his investment in his business with the Borough Box. It's great to see people utilizing that space as we look to bring business back to downtown Hagerstown. Mr. Lohr, it's always great to see you here. Appreciate your comments. As far as some of the housings that you talked about up on Summit Avenue, so that we are aware of those. I know there's been some discussions here as far as how to address those, and hopefully we'll see something in the near future, specifically that one you talked about at 5, I believe it was it 535? 523. Because, we see the same things that you do as well. As far as the tiered tax rate, that just is a new thing that's come up here in the last week. We'll see where that goes. I can only speak for myself. I spoke this up when it first came about. It's not something that I am in favor of, but I'm only one of the 4 of us here now. We'll see going forward how that plays out. I tend to agree with you. I think we should focus on staffing and personnel costs and budget reductions and things of that nature, as opposed to adding another tax. I understand the concept of revenue enhancement, but to me, that's just another way of how we're going to take additional money from the citizens of our town. That's all I have to add here this evening, so thank you.
Mr. Alshire?
Sure. Coincidentally, I get to speak directly to the 2 comments made here this evening because I am familiar, not just familiar with the area in question that Mr. Wills talked about, but also the activity that's occurring, and I think maybe the ability to relate it to the concerns of the tier tax system that Mr. Lohr spoke of. So, when I first got into public office, one of the sort of thoughts that I had was to show up sort of like those home improvement shows do one night. And I remember as a kid, the West End market, Key Market is what I guess I last knew it as. It burned down and it became, a vacant sort of abandoned lot. And, I grew up and became of age and got to see it just sort of sit there in its decrepit fashion. The property owner gives it over to us. And so this whole time in public office, I've always thought of just showing up there one night and, just bombarding it and making it a park. And everybody sort of gets up one day and suddenly it's a park. And the neighborhood enjoys it. And that's a great thought to have. But there are challenges in that neighborhood that they have to deal with. And so the city works with the state, and staff, sort of brought that dream that I had to reality with city and state money and a lot of hard work from a lot of good citizens and a lot of good staff. And I got a friend that I visit a good bit. In fact, I just emailed Mayor and Council on this very same concern a couple of days ago. That friend lives, I'll say, directly or in the direct vicinity of this house that Mr. Wills brought up that he just bought. And I was over visiting the other evening, and I'm getting out of the car to walk up to the friend's house, and I hear somebody across the street in what I have seen over the last 6 or 7 months as questionable activity. And the yell across the street, sir, yes, sir, they certainly wouldn't say that. You better watch your business or you're going to get shot in the head. And so that was the words that was echoed to me. And I kept walking. I didn't pay any mind to it. And the next day I sent Mayor and Council an email and said, look, here's the reality. And now I'm going to relate this concern of public safety and our activity within those parks and the taxes and how it applies to these concerns of and questions of tiered tax system. Here it is. I got a friend who buys a house. I got Mr. Wills who buys a house in the direct vicinity. Both those properties are appraised at about $130,000 or assessed. They got one person living in it, single home. Can't get out of the city fast enough after this type of activity. Because across the street from him, he has to see every day this 6 or 7 unit apartment building with tenants that come and go every couple of months, owned by, on one side, a couple that lives in Gaithersburg, and another some sort of investment entity. And those properties right across the street are appraised or assessed at that same $130,000. He pays his $1,300 in taxes. 80% of our services in the city are police, fire, and public works. And I think staff put it fairly squarely the last week or so that we talked about the issue and said roughly less than 40% homeownership in the city, paying about 65% of the total tax take. Rentals make up more than 60%, pay less than 40% of the total tax intake. And then we hear these comments that you rightly brought up this evening, 6 vacant homes there in the south end, a couple of vacant homes on Willard, et cetera. We're certainly no stranger to seeing, for sale signs in the north end of these single homes that we want home ownership in. Everybody looks at that tax rate. And that's a big impact on whether to buy and own a home in the city. It just is. That's a reality. The less we do to address that disparity that places that greater burden on, frankly, the smaller percentage of home ownership that we have, who then pay the greater share and command less of those 3 primary services, the longer they're going to sit vacant, the worse that percentage is going to become. And so we have to address that issue. And like it or not, I pay my trash bill every quarter. I put out 1 home's worth of trash, pay $30-some, I think, a quarter. 6-unit apartment building, an 8-unit apartment building, a 10-unit apartment building puts out 10 units worth of trash, and they pay that $30 a unit, $30 a unit, $30-some a unit. And so there is a differential there because there is a larger demand and a larger burden of that particular service. And that's just the bottom line for me when I look at that issue, and what I think is a proper course to take to address the exact scenario that was brought up here this evening by both of those examples.
That it?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to close it up, the comments, by saying join us on Friday night for the tree lighting. And don't forget about Chris Kringle on Saturday. Starts at noon. And it'll be a great time. So it's very family oriented. Bring your family down, enjoy downtown, enjoy shopping, enjoy the vendors that'll be set up, and have a great time. Weather's going to be great for it. So come join us. Moving on, we're going to adopt the minutes of October 3rd, 10th, 17th, and October 24th.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on October 3, 10, 17, 24 of 2017.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. The next is under unfinished business, termination contracts for any future purchases with Standing Broadcasting. We tabled this item on October 24th, and I need a motion to take it off the table, and then we'll have to have a motion, or I'm going to explain the motion once again before we call for the vote. We don't need a motion for that vote.
Move to take it off the table, Mayor.
Moved by Lou,
Second.
second by Emily. All in favor of taking it off the table?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. The original motion was I hereby move for mayor and council action to authorize staff to terminate any and all existing contracts for any future purchases with Standing Broadcasting due to the actions of the radio station known as 101.5. We had an original motion and an original second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails, 4-0. Introduction of an ordinance, land management code amendments, revision of cluster subdivision requirements for Article 4, Section D, residential districts.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance to amend Chapter 140 Land Management Code of the City Code. This amendment shall revise Article 4 zoning, Section D, residential zoning district, subsection 6, cluster subdivisions. This amendment shall extend the applicability of the cluster subdivision regulations beyond the currently permitted RMOD zoning district to include also the RMED, RH, and RO zoning district, revised the minimum bulk requirements chart and require all dwellings to be on fee simple lots for each dwelling on two-family dwelling. Upon the effective date of this ordinance, the newly updated land management code that includes this amendment shall be identified as the Land Management Code version 3.3.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Approve a resolution, the First Amendment to agreement with American Traffic Solutions Incorporated for the purposes of providing a digital red light camera system related other office services.
Mr. Mayor, we move for mayor and council approval of a resolution to approve a First Amendment to the agreement with American Traffic Solutions, Inc. This amendment is to secure ATS's assistance with installation, approval of locations, training, technical, and other support related to red light camera system in the city. Approval of the amendment extends the contract until December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? Now, Chief? Yes, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we currently do not have any red light cameras active. Not active yet. Okay. And this is just continuing the contract to move forward and bring back to mayor and council a recommendation for installing red light camera.
No.
That's been done.
That's
That
already
has
approved.
already been completed.
That's already been done.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just to amend the contract and extend it. That's it. It's already been done, it's already been approved through you guys.
We still haven't put any up yet.
Not yet, but we hope to have them up in December.
Take your time.
Make it happen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Approve of a resolution, execution of a lease agreement for the portion of the city of Hagerstown property known as Borough Box located at 60 West Washington Street, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement for a portion of the city of Hagerstown property known as Borough Box located at 60 West Washington Street in Hagerstown, Maryland. The lease will be between the city of Hagerstown and Buckler Business Services and MyCorp and shall be in effect from December 1, 2017 to November 30, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Approval of funding for a community coalition lobbyist.
Mr. Mayor, here we move mayor and council authorization of the expenditure of $5,000 from the general fund in order to contribute toward hiring John Favazza with the firm of Manis Canning and Associates as the community coalition lobbyist. Other committed partners include the Washington County Commissioners, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Chamber of Commerce, Chief, the Greater Hagerstown Committee, Friends of the Library, Washington County Public Schools, the Town of Williamsport, and the Town of Boonesboro.
Second.
Discussion?
This is a correct motion, right? I mean, it includes all of these partners as being contributing partners.
Yes, that's how we understood it.
there before, was it Williamsport?
Boonesboro.
That was our understanding, yes.
What about the county?
Further discussion?
Is the county, what was the final thing from the county?
I just don't want to obligate an entity in my motion.
Well, the county was making a decision
hasn't
last Tuesday,
committed.
right?
The county we're meeting with December 12th, and WCPS is doing the printing in kind. Those are the updates.
Okay,
Everything else
the only reason the county isn't here, you just haven't met with them yet. Fair enough.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Excuse me. Approval of a waiver of permit fees for an economic development project by the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the waiver of permit fees not to exceed $5,000 for an economic development project by the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts involving the replacement and upgrade of the museum's HVAC system.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, that's it. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Here's